My fiancé's idealized first love, Chloe, was hospitalized for depression. To cheer her up, my fiancé, a doctor himself, suggested a prank, dressing up as ghosts and scaring patients in the ICU in the middle of the night. I strongly advised against it, emphasizing how vulnerable ICU patients were, clinging to life by a thread, and how such a prank could easily lead to a tragedy. My fiancé eventually gave up the idea. That very night, Chloe had a depressive episode, climbed onto the rooftop, lost her footing, and died instantly from the fall. My fiancé didn't blame me. Instead, he thanked me for stopping him that day. We held a grand wedding, but after we married, my mental state deteriorated, and I even started experiencing hallucinations, living in fear every day. On the anniversary of her passing, my fiancé took me to the rooftop. Grace, I've been injecting you with hallucinogenic drugs. Now you can understand the pain Chloe went through, can't you? You had no sympathy for patients, you were responsible for her death. Now it's your turn to pay for it with your life. My fiancé pushed me off. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day they planned to play ghosts. This time, I didn't say a word to stop them. They didn't know that the ICU had a new patient, the family member of a very influential figure. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. Family members aren't allowed to stay overnight in the ICU, so it's the perfect place to play ghosts, Marcus said. As long as we turn off the surveillance cameras, no one will know what's going on inside. I'll be the grim, black-robed, and you can be the grim, white-robed. My fiancé Marcus and Chloe were discussing it cheerfully. I looked at them both and suddenly realized I had been reborn. Suddenly, Chloe glanced at me, and her smile vanished. She sighed, a little dejected. Marcus, thank you for the kind thought, but I think I won't go. Marcus immediately became anxious. Why not? Chloe, doing more fun things will really help with your condition. Chloe frowned, lowering her voice. I know, but Grace wouldn't agree. Marcus immediately turned to me, a hint of impatience in his eyes. Grace, are you going to spoil the fun again? I offered a small smile. Not at all. Marcus was taken aback. You agree to us going? Of course, I couldn't say yes. I merely said casually, everyone's an adult. People can do what they want, it's nobody else's business, right? Chloe linked her arm through mine, happily saying, Grace is so nice. I thought you didn't want me to go. After all, in your eyes, the ICU patients have always been more important than me. I smiled. You're mistaken. I've never thought that. Marcus said approvingly, Grace, you've handled this very well. Helping a friend is just part of it, you used to be a bit unsympathetic. I just smiled and said nothing. Marcus and Chloe soon got dressed up. One was the grim, black-robed, the other the grim, white-robed. They had DIY pointy hats from printer paper, with good and peace written on them, and long red paper tongues. If I were a patient, I'd definitely be startled. Just as they were about to leave, Chloe suddenly looked at me, puzzled. Grace, aren't you coming? I was surprised. I have to go too. Marcus said unhappily, didn't I just say? You should do things for a friend. Grace, you're not that heartless, are you? Are you just going to stand by and watch Chloe suffer from depression, completely indifferent? I replied, I really want to go, but I need to be on duty in the doctor's office today. Marcus said to Chloe, never mind, it's better if she doesn't go. We'll go just the two of us. But didn't move. She cautiously said, Marcus, what if someone reports you for scaring patients as a ghost? Will it affect your career at the hospital? Marcus was stunned, then he looked up at me, saying eerily, Grace, you have to come. As long as you're there, it means you're involved. If you want to report me, you'd be reporting yourself. I looked at Marcus sadly. I'm your fiancé. Is that how you see me? Do you think I'd report you? Marcus, we're about to get married. Don't you trust me at all? Marcus froze, a look of guilt appearing on his face. He pulled me to the door and whispered, Grace, it's not that I don't trust you, it's Chloe who doesn't. Don't blame her, she's a patient and prone to suspicion. Can you just give in to her? She's very fragile, after all. I looked at Marcus and let out a desolate laugh. It was always the same excuse. At my engagement party with Marcus, Chloe had suddenly run out crying. Marcus had abandoned me in front of all the guests to chase after her. The reason? She was a patient, she was fragile, and she needed to be indulged. A few days ago, I left work early and came home to find them kissing on the sofa. Marcus's excuse then was also that Chloe was a patient, having a depressive episode, and needed his comfort. I stared into Marcus's eyes and said coldly, how many more times do you expect me to give in? Gamble my career away to participate in her ridiculous pranks? Marcus's face darkened. Grace, in your mind, is your career more important than a human life? It seems you really might secretly report us. That way you can get promoted, right? Marcus had cruelly killed me in my previous life, and my heart was already broken. Yet, hearing him say this again still brought tears to my eyes. I choked out, is that truly what you think of me? Marcus sighed. Grace, can we just give in to Chloe one last time? Depressed patients are the most prone to suspicion, and if you don't go, she'll keep worrying. That won't do her condition any good, it'll only make it worse. I remained silent. Marcus added, besides, a patient won't necessarily be scared to death, will they? Many patients, after being stimulated, actually experience increased blood flow, which helps with recovery. Without waiting for my answer, he pulled me directly towards Chloe. Chloe smiled and asked, Grace, you finally agreed? Marcus answered for me, she agreed. Chloe, don't worry, no one will report us now. Marcus turned off the surveillance cameras and found an excuse to send the on-duty nurse away. Then he and Chloe entered the ICU. They turned off the main lights in the room, leaving only the dim corridor light. The ward was dark and hazy. I stood in the corner of the room, not participating, just watching them coldly. Marcus looked at the patient charts and selected a patient who was conscious but not comatose. The patient was already asleep. He vigorously patted the patient's shoulder. The patient opened their eyes in confusion. Marcus said grimly, your time has come. The patient trembled with fear, rolled their eyes, and fainted. Chloe covered her mouth, giggling with delight. Marcus anxiously watched the vital signs monitor and relaxed when he saw the patient's vital signs were still stable. He said to me triumphantly, see? I told you, it won't kill anyone. With the first success, their courage grew, and they quickly chose a second target. As luck would have it, this target was the mother of that influential figure. When this patient arrived, Dean personally received her and held a special meeting for everyone, emphasizing the need to take excellent care of Mrs. Margaret and ensure no mistakes were made. Otherwise, everyone, from the dean to the nurses, would be in deep trouble. However, Marcus had been downstairs with Chloe, taking a stroll, and hadn't attended the meeting. Marcus first checked her medical records, then, using the same method, woke the patient up and said grimly, when fate calls, no one can escape. Margaret, your time of death is upon you. The patient trembled violently, wet the bed, and then fainted. Chloe clapped her hands happily. Marcus, she peed herself. So easily scared, ha ha ha. I want to scare her too. Chloe vigorously patted Margaret awake, then said chillingly, Margaret, come with us to the underworld. However, this time Margaret didn't tremble. She looked at Marcus, then at Chloe, and finally her gaze settled on Marcus. Though weak, her voice was firm. You're a doctor, aren't you? My son introduced you to me, he said you're very skilled. Marcus's face instantly changed. Chloe anxiously tugged at Marcus's sleeve. It's over, it's over. She recognized you, Marcus. What do we do? Marcus was also a bit panicked. He gave Mrs. Margaret an awkward smile. Mrs. Margaret, we were just playing a prank. Mrs. Margaret was very weak, but her anger was still evident. She struggled to say, is this really how you play pranks? Marcus profusely apologized. Mrs. Margaret, we were inconsiderate. I apologize. At that moment, Chloe suddenly tugged at Marcus and said in a low voice, Marcus, you don't need to apologize. Marcus looked at her, puzzled. What do you mean? Chloe sneered, pointing at Mrs. Margaret. Look at her face, so weak, yet still so angry. If we apologize to her, will she forgive us? I'm sure the first thing she'll do when she recovers is to report you. Marcus was startled. He had been busy with his promotion recently. If Margaret reported him, everything would be over. Thinking of this, Marcus said regretfully, I really shouldn't have come today, I must have lost my mind. Hearing this, Chloe said tearfully, Marcus, do you regret trying to cheer me up? Marcus shook his head, his heart aching. No. Chloe, don't misunderstand me. I'm just a little flustered and don't know what to do. Chloe sneered again. Marcus, aren't ICU patients very fragile? Could they pass away at any moment? Marcus nodded. That's right. Chloe said, then it would be quite normal for this old lady to suddenly pass away, wouldn't it? No one would suspect a thing. Marcus was taken aback. You mean? Chloe pointed at the various instruments on Mrs. Margaret. We just unplug her for 5 minutes, then plug her back in. Who would know? The two of them were actually discussing killing her right in front of Mrs. Margaret. Mrs. Margaret was already trembling all over from fear, and was ready to act, her hand was already reaching for the plug. I gasped. No, don't move. I stopped Chloe, saying furiously, you're going to commit murder. Marcus's face showed conflict and hesitation. Chloe, pointing at my nose, said coldly, Grace, what do you mean by this? Are you going to stand by and watch this patient ruin Marcus? Do you even love Marcus? Are you going to watch his future be destroyed? I said coldly, aren't you the one ruining his future? Why are you pinning all the blame on me? If it weren't for you, would he be here playing ghosts and scaring people? Would he be doing such an absurd thing? Chloe, are you now trying to instigate murder? Marcus took a deep breath and said to Chloe, Chloe, maybe we should just forget it. We can still salvage this now. Chloe wrapped her arm around Marcus's. Marcus, I'm fine, I just feel bad for you. Oh, and Grace is a doctor too. Won't you two be competing for promotion? Could be doing this too. Marcus's gaze hardened, and he immediately looked at me with suspicion. I gave Marcus a bitter smile. Do you think I'm trying to seize an opportunity to harm you? Marcus said eerily, it's actually quite normal for someone to die in the ICU. Besides, even if I don't unplug her medical equipment, she might not make it anyway. Grace, with this conflict of interest and personal stake, you'd better not stop me. Otherwise, I might truly suspect you're trying to harm me. Marcus reached out to pull the plug. At that moment, Mrs. Margaret, with all her might, weakly said, no, don't. My son is Victor. Everyone was shocked. Victor was the wealthiest man in our city, well-connected in both legitimate and less-than-legal circles. Offending him would lead to endless trouble. When Garrett was admitted, Dean had told everyone that if anything happened to her, the entire hospital would be in deep trouble. I grabbed Marcus. Don't ruin everyone. Marcus was completely consumed by madness. He slapped me hard. Letting her live is what will ruin everyone. If finds out what I did today, will I even survive? I desperately tried to stop Marcus, but he kicked me directly in my lower abdomen. I gritted my teeth, trying to get up, but Marcus stomped on me, pinning me firmly to the ground. Chloe, go unplug it. Marcus yelled to Chloe. Chloe was already by the bedside. At this point, Mrs. Margaret was also terrified. She tried hard to say, don't unplug it. I promise. I promise I won't report you. Chloe just slapped her. Only a fool would believe that kind of promise. Then, Chloe's hand went to the plug. But she didn't pull it out. Instead, she turned back and smiled at Marcus. Marcus, let Grace unplug it. That way, she won't dare to report you afterward. I looked at Chloe in shock. You're truly vicious. Marcus harshly kicked me. You even want to report your own fiancé, you're the vicious one. I said, utterly disheartened, did I ever say I was going to report you? Marcus grabbed my hair and pulled me up. Even though you didn't say it, I can see you have the intention. He dragged me to the bedside. Chloe grabbed my hand, forcing me to pull out the plug. Immediately, the vital signs monitor at the head of the bed sounded an alarm. Margaret's heartbeat flatlined. Marcus and Chloe smiled triumphantly. They took off their ghost costumes and casually tossed them into the trash can. They walked toward the door, intending to leave that troublesome place. I slumped to the floor, shedding tears for Margaret. Chloe looked back at me, sneering, Grace, you have no relation to Margaret, why are you acting like this? Marcus scoffed, she's quite the actress. I said nothing. After they left, I immediately took out the adrenaline I had prepared. I injected it into Margaret's body and quickly performed CPR. A few minutes later, Margaret's heartbeat resumed. She slowly opened her eyes, saw me covered in sweat from exertion, and gratefully whispered, thank you. I breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, Margaret's face suddenly changed dramatically. I was startled, then realized with horror that Marcus and Chloe had returned without me noticing. Marcus grabbed my clothes. Grace, it seems you really did want to harm me. He slapped me hard, then kicked me to the ground, frantically beating me. I tried to scream for help, but Chloe covered my mouth. She looked up and said eerily, Marcus, is there any way to make Grace keep quiet too? I shook my head in terror. Marcus knelt down. He looked at me and said, Grace, I don't want to hurt you. But you've disappointed me too much. If you talk about this, my future will be ruined. Don't worry, I won't kill you. There's a certain drug that will make you hallucinate. From now on, everyone will treat you as mentally ill, and no one will ever take your words seriously again. I looked at Marcus in terror, but he didn't give me a chance to speak, already producing a syringe. I pushed him with all my might, then ran towards the door, but quickly caught up with me, and he and Chloe together dragged me to the ground. The syringe plunged into me, and I watched helplessly as the liquid was injected into my body. After that, my mind became foggy, as if I were drunk. Just then, the on-duty nurse returned. Seeing us, she shrieked, "What are you doing?" Then, she quickly pressed the emergency alarm. Marcus's face turned pale. "It's over." Footsteps echoed down the corridor as the nurses and doctors on duty rushed over. Even Thompson had climbed out of bed, hastily put on his coat, and hurried to the ICU. "What is going on here? Who can explain this to me?" Dean exploded in anger. At that moment, a chilling voice came from outside. "Dean, I hope you can give me an explanation." Instantly, everyone fell silent. Victor had arrived. News traveled fast. He burst in with a large group of bodyguards, his eyes practically spitting fire. He gritted his teeth and said, "Whoever hurt my mother will pay with their life." Chloe was already scared senseless. She instinctively hid behind Marcus. Victor looked at Dean, his face grim. "Who did this?" Dean wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and demanded of the doctors, "What exactly happened? Who discovered it first?" By now, Margaret, after all the turmoil, had fallen into a coma. I opened my mouth to speak, but the drug Marcus had injected me with affected my brain. I sat on the floor, dazed, like I hadn't quite woken up from a hangover. I could only watch helplessly, unable to utter a single word. Just then, the nurse who had pressed the emergency alarm stepped forward. She pointed at me, Chloe, and Marcus. At the time, I saw the three of them in the ICU. They seemed to be arguing, and the three of them were struggling with each other. Victor waved his hand. A large group of bodyguards immediately took control of us. Marcus, pale-faced, stammered, "I'm sorry, actually we were." Before he could finish, Chloe quickly interjected, "Actually, we were stopping Grace from committing an assault." Marcus was startled, he looked at Chloe in surprise. Chloe gave him a knowing look, and he immediately understood, nodding vigorously. "That's right, we were stopping Grace from committing an assault. She was trying to kill Mrs. Margaret." Chloe added, embellishing the story, "Yes, that's exactly what happened. Grace was like a madwoman, struggling fiercely. Luckily, someone helped press the alarm, otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable." I was drenched in anxious sweat. I wanted to defend myself, but I couldn't say a word. Victor wasn't a fool, he didn't fully believe Chloe and Marcus's story. He looked at me. "Your Grace? Did you do this? My mother has no grudge against you, why would you harm her? Can you tell me why?" I desperately tried to speak, but when I opened my mouth, I could only produce meaningless, muddled sounds. Chloe watched me nervously, and seeing that I wasn't speaking, she visibly relaxed. Marcus said eerily, "Her mind seems to be disturbed. Just now she was acting like a lunatic, muttering nonsense and talking a lot of gibberish." Dean immediately came over, and after a quick examination, told Victor, "She appears to have taken some kind of hallucinogenic agent." Victor sneered, then slapped me to the ground. "I never would have thought you were a drug addict. If you want to fall apart, just find a corner and hide, right? Why cause such a scene? You almost killed my mother." Victor's slap was like a signal. The bodyguards behind him rushed forward, savagely beating me. The sharp pain actually made me a little clearer. I strained with all my might, howling a few syllables from my throat, "No, I didn't." But my voice was too weak, Victor didn't hear it at all. I struggled to crawl over, grabbed Victor's pant leg, and shook it desperately. "I didn't, they're framing me." Victor frowned. Just then, Chloe walked over, smiling. "Mr. Victor, would you say Dr. Marcus and I acted heroically?" Victor laughed heartily. "Yes, you saved my mother's life. I will thank you profusely." Then, he looked at me with disgust and said to his subordinates, "Take her away, and give her a good care. As long as you don't kill her, you can do whatever you want." The bodyguards acknowledged, dragging me out like a dead dog. I knew that if I was taken away, I would be tortured to within an inch of my life. I clung desperately to the table leg, pleadingly looking at my colleagues. But not a single person dared to say a word for me. Seeing that I wouldn't go, Chloe walked over with a cold smile and pressed her shoe heel hard onto the back of my hand. Just as I was about to give up, I heard Dean exclaim with surprise, "Mrs. Margaret is awake." Everyone looked over, excited. Margaret waking up meant many could escape trouble. Only and Marcus didn't go. They told the bodyguards, "Quickly, take Grace away, lest Mrs. Margaret gets angry seeing her." Hearing this, the bodyguards pulled me even harder. Seeing me clinging to the table leg, they kicked me fiercely. I felt like my fingers were broken. I couldn't hold on anymore, released the table leg, and was dragged toward the hallway. Just then, I heard Victor bellow, "Wait." The bodyguard stopped immediately. Victor said loudly, "My mother has something to say." "Everyone keep quiet." In an instant, the entire ward became so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Margaret slowly raised her hand and pointed at Marcus. Marcus's face was pale, and his body was trembling. He bravely walked over and grabbed Margaret's hand. "Mrs. Margaret, you don't need to thank me. I'm a doctor, saving lives is my duty." Margaret gasped, breathing heavily. Victor knelt by the bed, his voice choked with tears. "Mom, don't rush, take your time." Margaret took a deep breath and slowly said, "Let go." Marcus dared not release her. Margaret repeated, "Let go." Victor grew anxious. He pointed at Marcus and said, "My mother told you to let go, didn't you hear her?" Marcus reluctantly loosened his grip. Margaret pointed at Marcus, then at Chloe. "They harmed me." After saying this, she weakly lay back on the bed, unable to speak further. Victor already sensed something was wrong. He told the bodyguards, "Bring over." I was dragged by the bodyguards and thrown at Victor's feet. Victor looked down at me from above. What happened? My mind was swirling. I pointed at the trash can and whispered, "They injected me with something." Dean immediately ran to search the trash can and quickly found the syringe and the medicine bottle. Dean, being a professional, understood with just one look. He handed it to another doctor. "Hurry, go prepare an antidote immediately." 15 minutes later, the antidote took effect, and my mind became clear again. I explained the situation in detail. During this, Marcus and Chloe tried to interject several times, but Victor roared, and they dared not make another sound. After I finished speaking, Victor looked at the two of them coldly, as if looking at two dead people. Marcus stammered, "I didn't. Grace is framing me. She wants a promotion, and I'm her competitor, so she wants to set me up." Chloe also said, putting on a brave face, "That's right, that's what happened. I can testify." I gave a bitter laugh and pointed at the paper hats on the floor. These two hats, they wore them. Words are even written on them, one says good, the other says peace. You can identify whose handwriting this is. Marcus couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed to the floor. He cried and knelt before Mrs. Margaret. "Mrs. Margaret, I'm sorry. Please spare my life, I'll never dare to do it again." Chloe was also terrified, her face ashen. She bit her lip and walked bravely towards Victor. "Mr. Victor, if you spare me, I'll do anything you ask." Victor gave her a direct, hard slap that swelled her face. He looked at Marcus and Chloe coldly. "You like playing ghosts, do you? I'll make you real ghosts." Marcus and Chloe were utterly terrified. They knelt on the ground, frantically kowtowing and begging Victor for mercy. Marcus repeated like a broken record, Mr. Victor, I know I was wrong, please spare my life, I truly know I was wrong." Victor sneered, looking at them both with disdain. He patted Marcus's face. "You don't know you're wrong, you're just afraid to die. As a doctor, you actually dressed as a ghost to scare patients, you truly deserve to die. I just heard you're Dr. Grace's fiancé. You, for another woman, actually framed your own fiancé, you're an animal." Marcus dared not contradict him. Seeing that Victor wouldn't spare him, he suddenly crawled on his knees towards Dean. "Dean, please save me, please say something. ING for me." Dean kicked Marcus over. "You degenerate don't deserve to work in our hospital." Then, Dean walked over to Victor, saying shamefully, "My management was insufficient, I take full responsibility." Victor nodded faintly. Marcus and Chloe were in despair. Finally, they turned their gaze to me. Marcus pleaded, "Grace, please save me, won't you?" I said calmly, "The fable of the farmer and the snake is enough to experience just once. Marcus, I've seen your true colors. Give up that hope." Marcus was utterly desperate. Victor waved his hand, and the two of them were dragged out by bodyguards. A few minutes later, I heard their screams. Their limbs were all broken. But even so, the bodyguards didn't stop. Amidst the intermittent screams, I suddenly heard Marcus's voice. He shrieked desperately, Mr. Victor, please spare my life. I was just an accomplice, this was all Chloe's idea. She wanted to play ghosts and scare people, she wanted to silence people, I was just misled by her." Victor said nothing, while Chloe, furious, lunged at Marcus. "Are you even a man?" Her limbs were broken, so she resorted to biting Marcus. Marcus, not to be outdone, bit Chloe back. "If you hadn't seduced me, Grace and I would be married by now. I should have been a brilliant doctor with a promising future, how did I end up like this?" They cursed each other and tore at each other. Victor instructed the bodyguards, "Don't disturb them. When they're almost at their last breath from biting each other, then call the police." The bodyguards nodded. Victor walked over to me. He said earnestly, "Dr. Grace, you are my mother's savior, yet I mistook you for the culprit and wronged you. I'm sorry, please don't blame me. He bowed deeply to me. Then, he presented a bank card with both hands. This is my apology gift. Please, Dr. Grace, don't decline. I shook my head and told Victor, I didn't save her for money. Victor said seriously, if you don't accept it, I'm afraid I won't be able to rest easy, and my mother wouldn't let me off the hook either. Since had already put it that way, I could only accept the bank card. Later, I checked the balance at the bank. The astronomical sum inside completely shocked me. The wealthiest man in the city truly was extraordinary in his generosity. As for Marcus and Chloe, they bit and tore at each other until they were covered in wounds and disfigured. When the police arrived, they were carried away on stretchers. Although I had received more money than I could earn in several lifetimes, I remained at the hospital, working as usual. The only difference was that everyone, from my superiors to my colleagues, treated me with extreme politeness. Everyone knew I was Victor, the wealthiest man in the city's benefactor. 3 months later, Margaret was discharged. On the day she left the hospital, she specifically came to visit me. Mrs. Margaret, nearing 70, insisted on bowing deeply to me. I quickly helped her up, saying, Mr. Victor has already thanked me. Margaret shook her head. He thanked you for wrongly accusing you and making amends. I am thanking you for saving my life. She looked at Victor beside her. Victor immediately took out a document and handed it to me. Dr. Grace, this is a token of gratitude from my mother. Please, you must accept it. I glanced at the document's contents and was instantly greatly surprised. Within these 3 months, Victor had established a pharmaceutical company. The company was enormous in scale, with liquid assets alone in the hundreds of millions. And I actually owned half of the shares. Victor explained, I know Dr. Grace is highly skilled in medicine and dedicated to medical research. So I established this pharmaceutical company, hoping to help Dr. Grace realize her dreams. Of course, the medical breakthroughs achieved during this time can also benefit more people. I nodded vigorously. 6 months later, Marcus and Chloe's case was adjudicated. The why were both sentenced to over 10 years in prison for attempted murder. However, they were destined never to see the day of their release. By the time they were locked away in prison, they had already lost their minds. It was said that every day they would not eat or drink, but just kneel on the ground, muttering to the wall. Marcus mumbled, it was all Chloe's fault, Grace, I'm sorry. Chloe mumbled, I won't dare again, I won't dare again. 3 months after being imprisoned, they both lost their lives. When the news came, I merely shrugged it off. I was very busy now and had no time to concern myself with them. Our company was planning to develop a new drug, with a high chance of success. With the launch of this new drug, I would become a legend in the medical field. My wonderful life was speeding forward, leaving those vile people far behind. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.